Hi guys, welcome to this episode of Ask a New York City Tour Guide. And in this episode, we're talking about the essential thing you must eat when you come to the city: pizza. I'm standing here in front of one of my favorites here in my neighborhood of Bushwick, Brooklyn. But the guides are going to have plenty to say about other places, some neighborhoods, some ones you have to see. So stick around, get their advice, and I'll see you at the end to talk about 3 of my favorites in my neighborhood. Hey, what's your favorite pizza?
My favorite pizza is Joe's, by far. Just a little slice. This is a big thing about New York, is everybody has their favorite place, right? The most important part for us is that you know how to eat New York style pizza. So you do the triangle, you fold, and then you eat over so you don't get any of the sauce on you. So good.
I would say almost anything without pineapple, although I'll certainly take Domino's off that list as well.
My favorite pizza is any place in Brooklyn. Okay, to Tony's, to Farah's, Giuliana's, even what's their names? Grimaldi's. Thank you very much. Mental block over there. They're all any place in Brooklyn is top notch. But for Manhattan, that place Joe's in Greenwich Village, it's not bad.
There is no topic more controversial in New York City than pizza. My favorite pizza in New York is Giuliana's, which is under the Brooklyn Bridge on the Brooklyn side. A lot of people will go to the more famously named Grimaldi's, which is up the block. But what they don't know is that Giuliana's is the real Grimaldi's. Patsy Grimaldi retired, sold his name and his recipe to the place up the block. He then got bored, he unretired, he moved back into his original place, which of course still has its original coal-burning brick oven, which the new place doesn't have. But he couldn't reopen under his old name because he'd sold it, he'd taken money for it. So he opened the place under his grandmother's name, Giuliana.
So people ask me about my favorite pizza or slice every single tour I give. And my go-to used to be Two Brothers, because they used to have $1 slice and $2.50 for 2 slices and a can of Coke. They have recently increased their price by an extra 50%, which isn't much. It's $1.50 a slice. You should be fine with that. It's still delicious, but I personally feel betrayed, so I'm sending everybody's to John's on Bleecker Street. It's historic, beautiful, beautiful place, and it's got that New York pizzeria attitude that we're famous for.
My favorite pizza place in New York City is in Crown Heights in Brooklyn. If you are going to the Brooklyn Museum or to the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, you have to go to this place called Barboncino. They are a Neapolitan wood-fired pizza place. It's a nice restaurant. Sit down, relax. It's my favorite in the city.
My favorite slice of pizza. The great thing about living in New York is that you can't go wrong with all the suggestions I know you're going to get. I'm going to give a shout out to Mama's 2. It's up on the Upper West Side. It's on Broadway and 105th. Just a great little pizza joint, hole in the wall type of place. Mama's 2. T-O-O.
My favorite pizza is not a New York style pizza, but it's more of a typical Italian style pizza, and you can get that at Giuliana's near the Brooklyn Bridge on the Brooklyn side.
So my favorite, and my girlfriend will argue otherwise, is Scar's Pizza in the Lower East Side. I found out about them. I'm a big fan of Bon Appetit magazine, and they went around to all 5 boroughs and tried to decide what the best slice was. They came up with Scar's. I went there because of that. Completely agree. The sauce is something that people often miss with pizza, trying to get a really nice sauce, and their sauce is to die for. So Scar's Pizza.
Called Adorole, kind of fancy restaurant in Hudson Street, and they have wonderful pies. And my favorite there is the Pietro Pizza. Pietro Pizza is, of course, a pie with arugula, prosciutto, and shaved Parmesan cheese. It's just wonderful, amazing. You can eat a whole pie for you.
My favorite pizza pie or slice of pizza is Patsy's Pizzeria at 117th and 1st Avenue. It's an old Italian neighborhood. Well, it used to be an Italian neighborhood 100 years ago. And Patsy's has coal oven fired pizza. Its oven is so hot that it takes about 4 minutes for them to make an entire pie. Frank Sinatra used to get their pies flown to Los Angeles. And it was the first coal oven fired pizza. Well, it's the longest continuous used oven in New York City.
A lot of people, when I do my tours, will ask me what my favorite pizza is in New York City, and my first reaction is always like, what, are you a king? Like, why do you deserve the best pizza in New York City? And I think pizza in New York City is a lot like New York City itself. There's the tourist New York City, and then there's the neighborhood of New York City where people have to live in and deal with every day. If I were to go to like great tourist pizza restaurants, I probably would pick either Roberta's or Giuliana's or Grimaldi's. But if I had to choose my own pizza, I would just go to my neighborhood place. When I lived up in Parkchester, the Bronx, which is a place you'll never have a reason to go to, I would always go to John's Pizza because I knew that guy there, and they would make the pizza not hot enough and it would be just thick enough that it would be something I could pig out on after I had a very, very sad, bad thing happen in my life.
Oh, pizza. My favorite pizza of the many kinds that there are in New York, all of which are delicious, is to actually go to a place which sometimes is deemed as a tourist trap, but it's not. It's called John's Pizzeria. It's right on 44th and 8th Avenue, 44th Street and 8th Avenue. And it's an old tabernacle church which has been converted into a pizzeria. And that type of pizza, the coal wood-fired kind that they make, is the kind that purportedly they brought from Italy to New York in 1904. It's very authentic.
My favorite pizza. It is actually Nolita Pizza, a friend of mine, and I'm going to be biased. I don't care if you call it nepotism or whatever you want to call it. But I am going to be biased about it. A friend of mine opened up a pizza place, two actually. They're both named Nolita Pizza, although we were teasing him because one's around St. Mark's Place and the other one happens to be on Kenmare Street, which is Soho. But nonetheless, Nolita Pizza, although it is by Little Italy. But anyway, the grandma, Rosemarie's recipe is the better pizza. So that every time I go in there, that's the slice I have, or two.
Sliced pizza is, I really don't do sliced pizza. I do the whole pieces, and my favorite spot is called B Pizza Bar on 52nd Street, right on 9th Avenue. Directly across the street is a Reba, but B Pizza Bar is my favorite spot to go for pizza all the time, be it for a slice or a whole pie. It's the best pizza parlor.
My favorite pizza in New York is actually Capizzi Pizza. That is on 9th Avenue between 40th and 41st. It's on this pretty scuzzy block just behind the Port Authority bus terminal, but wood-fired Italian pizzas, really good, fun, old school. You know, it really is like an authentic pizza parlor atmosphere. So I definitely give that place a solid recommend.
My favorite pizza has to be Giuliana's in Brooklyn, with the J. Giuliana's with the J.
So the best place to get gluten-free pizza is Two Boots. They have a couple of locations. There's one in Times Square, but it's great because they have gluten-free pizza, which not a lot of places have, although more do. But Two Boots is one of the first places that was doing gluten-free.
My favorite slice or pie. That's a hard question for me because I have a gluten allergy, but I will say there is an awesome little place called Pie right by Union Square that has some fantastic gluten-free pizzas.
Favorite pizza? You're asking in Italian, so you know the answer is not going to be easy. And let me put this as well. I suffer from celiac disease, so I may have a bias in answering, but my answer always goes to Sotto Casa Pizzeria. There are actually two. One in Harlem, Lenox Avenue, between 121st and 122nd, and another one on Atlantic Avenue in Boerum Hill. To me, it's the best Italian real pizza in New York. If you want some kind of a Chicago-style pizza, I would always go to, Chicago, but it doesn't matter.
That was a lot of pretty great advice on places to visit. Definitely hit some of the classics, but don't worry, there's pizza everywhere. We have over 24,000 pizza places in New York City. And I live in Bushwick, Brooklyn. It's an up-and-coming neighborhood. It's considered hipster. Been here a little bit before that. But I am in one of my favorite places, and I have three places that I go depending on what I want, like most New Yorkers. For this one, I'm at Tony's, and we get Sicilian here, and an orange drink. I don't usually get that, but I decided to treat myself today. And this was $3.75. It's an amazing deal. And for me, it's quite filling. So you can get a really good budget meal for less than $5 if you're not a huge eater. And this place has been around since the 1970s. So definitely check some of the better local places that have been around. Always support local when you can here in the city. Now, the second place I like here in the Bushwick Brooklyn neighborhood is a place called Archie's. They do whole pies. They also often will have a slice of the day, and they do sandwiches and things like that. They also have a pretty okay beer selection. But what I like about Archie's is it's kind of a thing from home. I grew up in Detroit. Archie's does a Detroit-style pizza. It just means it's a pizza with a slightly thicker crust than a New York-style pizza. Pretty good, and they deliver. Always important when you don't feel like putting on pants and leaving your house. Yeah, so if I'm looking for fancy pizza in my neighborhood, this is the place that I come. This is Roberta's. I know it doesn't look fancy, does it? They have individual sized pies, well, sort of individual. They use organic ingredients, some nice fancy stuff, a local whenever possible. They also have an outdoor area, the garden. They have a tiki bar, and they have a radio station, as well as a takeaway section and a bakery. So if you are in Bushwick, or if you want to come by and check this out, you just take the L train to the Morgan stop. It's only a couple blocks away. So make sure while you're in town you have the essential New York food. Go to a classic, go to a neighborhood place, just make sure you have some pizza. And of course, like, subscribe, share if you can. We'll see you next episode. Thanks.